Shush.
Hello, witches. It's Kristen. I have been doing some thinking, probably prompted by me going through a lot of memorabilia from childhood. My grandparents' house is being pretty much cleared out of all of its contents for my sister and her husband to move in. And so a lot of special things that were special to me growing up, I'm getting back, or getting to keep, inheriting, I guess you would say, or getting back some of the gifts that I had given to my grandparents over the years, and my aunt as well, because she lived there. My aunt was also my godmother, which has something to do with what I'm going to talk about today. So, in looking at all of these mementos and things, a few particularly stood out to me. One being the last Christmas that my grandfather was alive. I had written him a poem, and I had a feeling. I kind of knew that this would be his last Christmas. We didn't know anything was wrong with him at the time, but I think deep down I just kind of knew, and I wanted to tell him that his life had had a huge impact on me, and I wanted him to know that all of the wisdom and all of the lessons and all of the things that I had learned from him, that I would pass on to my children, and that he had laid a foundation for our family, a really amazing foundation. I was lucky to be blessed with two very spiritual grandparents. They were spiritual in completely different ways. My grandfather was raised in a Protestant type of Christian faith. I believe also there was some Russian Orthodox stuff there too, but I don't think they were very necessarily religious. But my grandfather always knew God. He knew God, he knew Christ, but he didn't teach me about God by taking me to church or reading me from the Bible or teaching me any type of doctrine. He taught me in his words, in his actions, in his patience. I learned more about spirituality, and I got more faith and more wisdom simply from the walks in the woods and the time that he would take to show me the little bugs inside of flowers, inside of a Jack in the Pulpit. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's a little plant and leaf. You lift it up, and inside there's this little thing sticking up, and my grandfather told me that's Jack, and you lift it up and he's in there.
What?
And I could walk around his house a million times and have him show me these Jack in the Pulpits, and I would never get tired of lifting it up and saying hi to this little guy Jack inside. And he would teach me how to, if a toad was trapped in his pool, he would teach me how to gently take him out, not to squeeze him, keep him in the bucket for a couple hours and play with him or watch him, and to let him go because he had a family to go to. And this type of thing, like, really showed me the divine in things, that everything has a purpose and everything has a family. Even like the little bugs have little families and babies, and you know, I learned to relate to the world in that way and to really learn to respect it. That was how I learned about life and death as well. I remember finding a bird that had died, and actually we had found it before it died. It was really wounded, and I remember going back later and my grandfather explaining that the bird had died, and you know, this was how life went, and that the bird would live on from the little baby birds, and they come back every year and they find that same nesting place. A lot of times when the babies are born in that nest, they'll come back and they will build their nest there. And years and years in a row, my grandfather always had a robin nest in his front yard, and he would lift me up and show me how this mother bird, she wouldn't fly away. She would sit on that nest and she would squawk at us, defending that nest. She wouldn't get up. And he taught me not to touch it. I could look. And he told me how this mother bird was defending her children. And he had a way of explaining things to me in a way that I could understand. Just so patient and so loving and so kind. And he was like that throughout his life with everything. He was just such a loving, wonderful man. Loved his wife. And he was actually a commander in World War II. I could go on and make a whole video about him, but my grandmother, on the other hand, she was a devoted Catholic, and her devotion was seen in other ways. I saw her devotion not in necessarily the Catholic ritual things. I think a lot of that is very similar to paganism. But I saw it in the fact that she never forgot her family. She was all about family. She remembered her brothers, her sisters, every single relative. Remembered their children, their children's birthdays, their anniversaries, sent cards, sent gifts. Even though people a lot of times never reciprocated or anything, my grandmother was so generous. She gave to countless charities, and always had sponsored these people that were from poor countries. She would sponsor somebody and pay for their way to become a Catholic priest. And I saw her devotion in that, and I also saw her devotion in that, you know how families have secrets and people have problems and things happen and stuff. My grandmother would never be one to go and talk about anything to do with her family. She would protect your reputation. She would protect anything. She never told people's dirt. My grandmother never told anything. She never gossiped about people, never said a bad thing. And that really says a lot, especially in an Italian family. Any of you guys who have grown up in an Italian family, it can be cutthroat. Italians can be very backstabbing and vindictive and all that kind of stuff, jealous, and when they fight, I'm telling you. But through it all, my grandmother, she was a saint. I don't think I ever heard her say a bad word. And amazing woman. And my grandparents, even through my tough teenage years, I could go to them, tell them anything, and I knew that they loved me for who I am. My grandmother always said that she loved us more than her own children, her grandchildren, I mean. And those are ways to learn about spirituality. You don't have to necessarily go to a church and learn a doctrine. You can learn about it by watching somebody else express what spirituality is. And you may not necessarily pick that path that they followed, but something of what they taught you and something of what their life meant to you is always going to be a part of your spirituality. And I think I really realized that when I was looking through their house and the mementos and things, that they will always be a part of who I am, what my spirituality means to me and how it evolves. And they're also a part of how I've raised my children. And that's something else that it made me think of, is no matter how you raise your children, you know, whether it's Catholic, Protestant, pagan, whatever, that stuff that you teach them is just knowledge. what they learn and what they make their spirituality is going to come through experience and through what you've taught, what you teach them, and how that means something in their life. You teaching it could be more important than what you're teaching itself, if that makes sense. Kind of doesn't, but it's in the way you teach it. You know, are you just teaching words, or are you living what you're teaching? And I can tell you that my grandparents lived what they taught. You could never say that either one of them tried to teach you something or make you do something that they themselves weren't living and weren't showing through their life. My grandfather always stressed the importance of education and wisdom and knowledge, and that you learn your whole life. That wisdom is truly a gift, and it's not something to be squandered. And I don't know, I just got to really thinking that because I was raised in a Catholic school, Catholic college and all of that, but that's not really what made an impact on my spirituality. And it's more the experiences and the people and seeing how their life taught me spirituality. So, I don't know, just thought I'd share. Have a wonderful day, guys. Blessings.